you get people to actually show up live for your webinar? That's the question I'm going to be answering today. I'm Jackie Johnstone of JackieJohnstone.com, and I help you put together brilliant social media and webinars to help you reach more people you can help. Today's question actually comes from a thread in a Facebook group, and people are asking for tips for how to get people to actually show up live to increase your live attendance rates on a webinar. And this is a fantastic question because you definitely want people to show up live, okay? In my experience, they are more engaged with you afterwards. They're more likely to put what you're teaching into practice, and they're more likely to buy if you're selling something at the end of the webinar. So it's really important. And I'm going to share 5 tips today on how to actually boost that live attendance rate. But before we get to the 5 tips, I just want to address kind of the elephant in the room, okay? The little bit of fear that comes in behind this question, and that's, what if nobody shows up live? What if I'm all by myself? It's really scary, right? Especially if this is your first webinar and you're new and you put all this work into it, and you're saying like, well, what if no one actually comes? Like, is this a failure? I'm gonna feel terrible. And you know what? This is one of those things that actually holds people back from even doing a webinar because they're so afraid of this. So I just want to take a step back for a second and say, so what if no one shows up live, right? Who cares? Especially if it's your first one, it's great practice, and there's no pressure because nobody's watching you live, but you're still going through the motions, right? And getting that, that experience. So the next one's going to be better. Also, doing a webinar with an empty webinar room is not the same as standing up in front of an empty conference room and presenting your talk. You can't see the people in your audience normally anyway. So for you, the experience is pretty much the same. I would say, if you have places in your talk where you were going to ask for feedback, that you just make those kind of pauses for participation, like you would expect people to do when they're watching the recording. As opposed to, asking people for feedback when you know that there's no one there to give you feedback. But otherwise, do the presentation just the way that you'd outlined it. Do it, pretend that there are 100 people watching or 1,000 people watching. And then you're gonna have that recording, right? People are gonna watch the recording. You're gonna send it out to people that registered that couldn't show up live. You're going to be able to reuse it as a free opt-in gift on your website or as a bonus training for your clients or a course that you have. Just because nobody showed up live at one presentation doesn't mean that it was a waste of time, doesn't mean that the webinar was a failure, and it doesn't mean that you were a failure, okay? So please don't let that, stop you from doing a webinar. That said, you do want to encourage people as much as possible to show up live. As I said, they're more likely to buy, they're more likely to put your stuff into action and become really engaged members of your audience, because when they show up live, you have their pretty undivided attention for an entire hour. Okay, that doesn't happen any other time in your business hardly, which is why webinars are so fantastic. So how can you get them, the people who sign up, how can you get more of them to show up live? Okay, so the easiest tip number 1, send out reminder emails with, a prompt to put the webinar in their calendar, okay? So that first email when they sign up, tell them to put it in their calendar. I like to send out an email 24 hours ahead of the presentation. Again, reminding them in 24 hours, there's gonna be a webinar, please put it in your calendar, mark it on your calendar, all that kind of stuff. 15 minutes before also, send an email, right? We're getting started in 15 minutes, come and join us, this is what we're covering. Because people are busy, they forget, they might not have put it in their calendar, so you want to remind them. 24 hours out, 15 minutes out. Tip number 2, let people know ahead of time that there is going to be a chance for them to ask questions at the end of the webinar, right? People want that opportunity to access you and to have a discussion with you and to pick your brain. So let them know, if you're doing a live Q&A, that there will be that chance at the end of the webinar. That's something that only people who show up live are going to be able to take advantage of, right? So put that in all those autoresponders and reminder emails. The third tip that you could try is to run a giveaway. So if you tell people that there's going to be a prize, and in order to win, you're going to be choosing from the people who actually show up live and are live on the webinar when you do the drawing, that will, you know, if it's a great prize and people are motivated, that will encourage them to actually come live if they want to win, right? So that's another tactic. The fourth thing that you can do is let people know that there is going to be some sort of special gift or a special offer for everybody that shows up live. So no matter what, if you show up live, you're going to get something special that nobody else is going to get. And that's another way of encouraging them to show up live. So the fifth tip is not something that I personally have done, but I've seen it work, and that is to let people know that the live presentation is free, but access to the recording is paid. So either you know, the recording itself is going to be for sale after, or it's going to become part of a program or client resources for private clients, and that the only way for them to get access to this information for free is to show up live. And obviously that's a powerful motivator, because people, you know, they like to get things for free. People are busy, however, and there are lots of time zone problems. So no matter how motivated some people show up and to, you know, to take in what you're teaching, they can't always come live. So that's why I personally have like usually do offer a recording, but please put a time limit on it. Okay, if you just let people have access to the recording forever and ever, they're just going to keep saying, oh yeah, I'll get to that, I'll get to that, I'll get to that, until they forget about it. So somewhere between 48 hours and a week, depending on, you know, how you feel and what your audience is like and how fast you can turn around your recording, I would say is, you know, it's a good time to say, okay, it's going to be coming down in 72 hours, you know, this is how many more hours you have left. So you also definitely want to remind those people that didn't attend live that the recording is there and it's coming down. So send reminder emails like tonight or tomorrow, the recording is going to be coming down. So you have 6 more hours to watch, because that will up the percentage of those people who are watching the recording, which is still good, right? Because those people could still really become raving fans or purchase, or, you know, really get a lot from what you're going to teach. So those are my 5 tips to get people to show up live. Definitely send out those reminder emails. That's the easiest one. Let people know there's going to be a chance for a live Q&A. Think about doing a giveaway or a contest for people who are live. Offer a bonus or special offer only to people who attend live, or consider only offering the live presentation for free and making the recording paid, because that will also encourage people to show up live. So those 5 tips, if you didn't write them all down, plus so many other things that you can do to really put together a successful professional webinar, all the creation, promotion, and execution stuff that you need. And there's a lot of moving pieces in a webinar. I've gathered them all together in my master checklist, Get Your Webinar Done checklist. And you can grab that for free right below this video at JackieJohnstone.com and get your webinar done. If you have any questions about how to get people to show up live, or you have other webinar questions that I could answer on an upcoming Q&A video, please come over to the comments at JackieJohnstone.com and let me know what your questions are so I can answer them. Thank you so much for being here.